First time he sang on this stage, he was about this big. He has grown a bit since we saw him last. So thank you. It was lovely, honey. So it is my pleasure and honor. I'm Ann Sadowski-Sitzman to introduce our guest speaker today. Reverend James is deep in meditation. I told him while he was meditating to meditate on world peace and for me to win the lottery. And I know he's doing that right now. So our guest speaker today is Russ Jackman. He is a DC, Doctor of Chiropractic, and a Master's of Divinity, yes, and is committed to a world where people wake up knowing they're powerful spiritual beings and that life is a playground to embrace the full potential of their divine nature. He's interested in exploring new ways to be in ministry, sort of like Reverend James, bringing fun ideas and fresh perspectives to the table. He's an ordained Unity minister and served as spiritual leader at Unity of Little Rock, which is, of course, where Reverend James came from. So he still practices as a chiropractic physician, acupuncturist, and nutritionist, integrating a holistic balance that embraces spirituality. He lives in Little Rock. He has a beautiful wife of 35 years, Miss Kim. I don't know how you could be married that long. She must have been 10 when you met her. So let's all give Reverend Jackman a huge Unity of Dallas welcome.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you. Good morning. Oh, let me look at you. I hope y'all all get the opportunity to stand up on this platform and look out at a group and see the smiling faces, even the ones that are squinting at you a little because they're not sure about the shaved head and the beard and who this fella is. But it's a treat to be here. I've been to Sea Weeks here. That was some of my first experiences. I've met many of you, and it was wonderful to come here today and be loved on by y'all. So I look forward to having even more, even after I finish this talk, hopefully being loved on. Okay, so thank y'all for allowing me to be here. Yes, I know Reverend James from Unity of Little Rock. He was the fellow that recommended I be the spiritual leader after him, and I still cuss him about that. But it was what began my journey of being a Unity minister, because before that, never in my wildest dreams that I would be a Unity minister, and here I am. So as much as I might cuss him, I also have to say thank you for that. James reminds me of my dad, and I know that for many of us that isn't always what comes after that a good thing, but it is with James, because I watched James never meet a stranger. He's always easy for him to have a conversation with anyone, and my dad was the same way. And he didn't just have a 5-minute conversation. He could talk to someone for an hour, for 2. As long as he had time, he could talk. And as a kid, I can remember sitting with my family in our car, waiting for my dad because he met somebody else to talk to. And my mother would, because I was the youngest, would shoo me in to go find my dad and get him to come on out. And I'd go in and go, "Mother says come on." And he would eventually drag himself out. And being a family, we had a tradition of harassing him after the fact. And we would always ask him something along the lines of, "Why did you think that fella wanted to talk to you? And why do you think you wanted to talk to him? Because he could have been a mass murderer. You never know." He always had the same answer. And that is, we're all good at the core. And it doesn't matter what I think, doesn't matter what we think, doesn't even matter what we see. We're all good at the core. So today, my talk is good at the core, because I want us to remember but also reinforce that there's one divine presence in the universe. All that is God, and that God is good. And who is made in that image and likeness of God? Me. That's the right word. Me. You, me, all of us. And because we're made in that likeness, that image of that same God that is good, then we are good. We're inherently good in spite of appearances, right? Because, I don't know about you, but I look out at the world, that's where I struggle. I have a hard time seeing that good out there. We talk about the wars that we can see, the famine, the hunger, the devastation that takes place on our planet and to our planet, the public figures that seem to want to say things that are as unkind as I think any human being could say to another human being. I see all the things you see, and I know you could add to my list, that tells us on the surface that, God, there can't be much good here. Look at that. But underneath that, there's a whole different story. Underneath that, we are good at the core. But it's for us to discover that, to remember that. Y'all know Charles Fillmore. I bet you James has told y'all a little about Charles Fillmore, that co-founder of Unity. Charles tells us that good is that being of the character of God, being godly in character as well. But also that good is this divine principle of benevolence that permeates the entire universe. And that benevolence is really a disposition to do good. So Charles Fillmore isn't just telling us that we're inherently good, but that we have within us this inherent need to do good, to be the expression of that good. And even old JC, Jesus Christ, is credited with saying something along those lines. And what he said was that you are the light of the world, and that you don't put a city on a hill to hide it. Just like you don't light a lamp and put it under a bushel basket. You light a lamp and you put it up on a shelf so it illuminates the whole house. We are not meant to be hid under that bushel basket, but we get caught up under that bushel basket. And we do that by what we see, what we experience, what we feel, what we think, how we look out into the world. I live in a 1906 money pit of a house in Little Rock. But its beauty is it has this wonderful big porch, and I go out and I stand on this porch. And this past week I did that. I stand on this porch and I look out and I watch the cars going past, and there always seems to be a stream of people walking up and down the street. And I look at the flowers and the shrubs and the trees, everything in the neighborhood. And as I stand there, especially this past week, I remembered. And I remember my wife Kim, her brother passed away recently. And it's been a horrendous experience of how his death unfolded, but also all the ridiculous paperwork and bureaucracy that goes with that process. So I think about my wife and her grief and in the struggles of dealing with that. And also reminds me of my own family. My last sibling, my sister, passed away just a few years ago. So as I stand there, I'm feeling my grief. I feel that loss and that isolation. That sense that I'm the only person in the world. No matter what I can see out here, I feel alone and isolated. And I hurt on my porch. What am I forgetting? I'm forgetting who I am. I don't remember who I am. And it's not that I'm supposed to push all that pain away. I'm also supposed to remember that I am fully human and fully divine. So standing on that porch, I also can look straight out and see this magnificent oak tree. And I think about that oak tree shooting those roots in deep. And it's got this incredible wide expanse of limbs. And as I look at that, I think about that power, that magnificence of that oak tree, and how nature is magnificent. And when I hit that idea, that understanding of nature, it reminds me of my own nature, my own divine nature. And as I look at that oak tree, I remember who I am. I remember that I am divine, just like that tree is divine. And then in me is this inherent goodness. I'm good at the core too. And as I said, it doesn't push my pain away, and it shouldn't. But it helps me remove that bushel basket so that I can see the light that I am. And in that light, I can illuminate that pain. I can illuminate my experiences of being human. And now, from that place of being lit, I can see the world as it is. And I can make my choices from that light versus only from my pain. So, to me, we have to remember who we are as our first step. That's a practice of remembrance. So my question for you, what's your oak tree? What helps you remember who you are? Remember your divine nature. Remember that you're good at the core. Because it's probably not my oak tree. It might be nature. It might be a poem, a verse, a paragraph, a word. It might be a painting. It might be a sculpture. It might be a little knick-knack from the person that you feel loves you the most in this life. But what is it that when you see it, it becomes that oak tree of remembrance for you? It helps you remember. And if you're like me, not too many years ago, my answer would have been, oh no, I don't know what my oak tree is. So with that, if that's your answer, then you know what your homework is this week, right? And that is to every day just claim, this is my oak tree. It's revealed to me. I now get to see it, experience it. And as your week progresses, I think that you'll solidify what it is that helps you remember. And as you remember, and for the rest of us that already know what our oak tree is, how do we bring that oak tree into every moment? Because I'm standing here looking out here, I don't see an oak tree. So I don't have my remembrance piece for me. I don't have an oak tree right here. But I do have my own ways of remembering that oak tree. Pictures on my phone. I have potentially paintings. I could also, don't have this one, but I could have a little sculpture. I could have a little necklace that has an oak tree on it, a bracelet that has an oak tree on it. I could carry an acorn in my pocket, right? Something that throughout my day, I'm being reminded of that oak tree, thus reminded of who I am. Because how can I step out of my pain, out of that suffering that we and our humans seem to stumble into on a regular basis? How do I step out of that if I don't remember, first off, who I am, my own divine nature? So this week, as we step into that remembrance of who we are, let's also remember that as I lift that bushel basket off of myself, as I recall who I am, as I see that light I am, when I look out into the world, I can see you as that light. In spite of the appearances, in spite of the things that I don't want you to be doing, that I can see you for that light. And that doesn't mean I don't pick up my sword and become that spiritual activist and go out there in the world and say, I'm going to help put an end to this, whatever this thing is for you in your life, what you're willing to stand up for and stand in that illuminated place of saying, there's another way, another choice. So that remembrance not only helps us in that moment, it helps us see the world as it is. And when I can see you for who you are, to me, that's just like the way I got greeted here when I came this morning. I got wrapped up and hugged. I don't know. I got the forehead prayer. Do y'all know the forehead prayer? I got held not in some limited way, not in looking at me and saying, "Oh, poor scraggly beard fella," but looked at me and held me for the fullness I am, saw me for my inherent good. And that we in the world can look out and see and be with those people, even when we don't think they're doing good, that we can embrace them and hold them. And that same goodness that they truly are. So I began with saying that I wanted us to remember that there's one power, one presence in the universe. And that is good. And that you and I are made in that likeness and image of that good. Thus we are inherently good. And in spite of appearances, we're good at the core. And it's for us to lift that bushel basket off our light. And we do that by remembering who we are. So this week, what's your oak tree of remembrance? And how do you hold that every day? See that every day? It's your opportunity to use your imagination. Because maybe you get to paint a little something that reminds you. Maybe it's something that you get to put as a picture, put as a sound, a song, whatever it might be that helps you recurringly return to that understanding. It's a practice of remembrance. So this week, remember who you are. Remember who you are. And from there, the beauty and magnificence, just like that oak tree, that you are, is revealed to the world. Because you are the light of the world. With that, let's shift gears and let's do our meditation. Because as you relax in, let any of your concerns or thoughts about what I've been saying or where you're going to lunch or whatever might be arising for you, just return to filling you with the awareness of who you are. Because you are that divine nature, that magnificent expression of the divine is you. And as you sit there and breathe in, each breath is expanding that awareness. It's adding fuel to that light. And it glows and grows in its brightness. And I want you to see yourself strolling down this nice hall, expansive, and you make a turn through a doorway, and there you see the most beautiful chair you could imagine. And it looks like it's meant just for you. You move to that chair, and as you take a good breath in and exhale, you sit down in that chair. And you feel that chair surround you, support you, but wrap you up. And it's wrapping you in the awareness that you are the divine in expression. You are unique. And only you in the world can express the divine as you express it. No one else can be you. And as you sit in this chair, you feel yourself deepen into the awareness of who you are. You're sitting down into the truth of your being. And no matter what arises, whether the pain of life, the grief of loss, there's also there a truth that all that is possible within you. As that light rises, so does your love and compassion for yourself. All that you're experiencing is not wrong, not flawed, but coming into the world because you're the one to express it. And as you see that expression, you also see that you're good at the core. Nothing is flawed or imperfect about your divine self. And just like a light on a shelf bringing illumination to a house, that light brings illumination to you. You are aware of the truth of your being and the being of every human being on the planet. They are love and light and good at the core. And as you're ready, you're going to rise from that chair. And even though you move from that room, returning to this space, to this time, to the awareness of being right here at Unity of Dallas, that experience of sitting into your divine self comes with you. You are that love and light. And wherever you be, whether that's sitting, standing, or yelling from the mountaintop, you are that divine nature, and you're good at the core. And we say, and so it is. Amen.